The hospital room was filled with the steady hum of machines, the rhythmic beeping of a monitor that seemed to echo through the emptiness. The scent of antiseptic hung thick in the air, mixing with the faint sweetness of flowers left by visitors who had long stopped coming. A 16-year-old girl lay on the bed, her skin pale and still, her hair carefully brushed by her mother every morning as if she might wake up any second. Tubes connected her to life, but the girl inside that body seemed far away, trapped somewhere unreachable. Beside her sat her mother, her hands wrapped around her daughter's fragile fingers. The woman's eyes were red and swollen, her lips dry from whispered prayers. Each day had become a silent battle between hope and despair. She spoke softly to her daughter even though the doctors had said she couldn't hear. "You're still my baby," she whispered, brushing the girl's forehead with trembling fingers. "You promised you'd never leave me. Please, sweetheart. Please come back." Outside the room, two doctors spoke quietly near the nurse's station. One of them sighed heavily, his voice hushed. "It's been 3 months now. There's been no neurological change. We might have to discuss options." The other nodded slowly, a sadness in his eyes. "She's so young. Sometimes, miracles happen. But we can't give false hope." They didn't realize the little girl standing down the hall could hear every word. She was small, barely 10, her eyes glistening with tears that she didn't dare let fall. She turned away before they could see her, her heart pounding as she pressed her back against the cold wall. That night, the hospital grew quiet. The halls dimmed, the world outside darkened, and only the distant buzz of fluorescent lights broke the silence. The little girl, unable to sleep, slipped out of the chair where she had been resting near her sister's bed. She held a small photo in her hand, one of her and her big sister laughing in their school uniforms. She remembered that day clearly. They had sung their favorite song in the car on the way home, the older one teasing the younger about her funny high notes. It had been raining, but they'd rolled down the windows, singing anyway, not caring about anything in the world. Now, she walked barefoot down the quiet corridor, her steps soft against the cold floor. The hospital chapel was small and dimly lit, only a few candles flickering at the front. She hesitated at the door, then walked inside. It smelled faintly of old wood and wax. There were no people, no sound, only the feeling of stillness that wrapped around her like a blanket. She went to the front row and knelt, clutching the photo close to her chest. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "God. I don't know if you can hear me. But if you can, please listen." Her voice broke, and tears streamed down her cheeks. "Everyone says she won't wake up. But I know my sister. She always keeps her promises. She promised she'd be there for my next birthday. It's next week. Please, God. Please let her come back." She looked up at the small wooden cross at the front of the room. "I'll do anything. I'll be good. I'll help Mama more. I'll even sing her song. Maybe she'll hear it. Maybe you'll help her hear me." Her small hands wiped at her tears. She stood there for a moment, silent, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. Then she whispered one last line, so soft it was almost swallowed by the still air, "If you bring her back, I'll sing for you too." The next morning, sunlight pushed its way through the hospital blinds, thin beams of gold touching the girl's pale face. The machines continued their slow, steady rhythm. The mother sat slumped in her chair, half asleep, her hand still wrapped around her daughter's. A nurse entered quietly to check the monitors, glancing at the girl's unchanged vitals, and smiled sadly at the mother. "No change," she whispered. "But she's stable." The mother nodded weakly. Stable had become the word she both hated and clung to. Then, the little sister came into the room. She was holding a small, old guitar, scratched, missing a string, the one her sister had used to teach her songs. The mother looked up, surprised. "Sweetheart, what are you doing?" The girl didn't answer. She just walked closer, her tiny hands trembling around the neck of the guitar. "I want to sing for her," she said softly. "I prayed last night. Maybe she'll hear me." The mother's lips parted as if to say something, but the words wouldn't come. She just nodded, tears already forming in her eyes. The little sister pulled a chair close to the bed, her feet barely touching the floor. She looked at her sister's sleeping face, so peaceful, so far away. "This was our song," she whispered. "You said it makes everything better." Her small fingers strummed the strings awkwardly at first, the sound soft and shaky. Then she began to sing. Her voice was gentle, high-pitched, but filled with something deeper than words, something pure, something desperate. It carried through the air, filling the sterile hospital room with warmth it hadn't felt in months. Nurses passing by slowed their steps, listening. The mother covered her mouth, afraid to sob and break the spell. The song was about hope, about holding on, about light waiting at the end of the dark. Every word seemed to touch the air like a prayer wrapped in melody. The little girl's voice wavered, but she kept singing. "Come back to me, please come home, I'm waiting where the sun still shines." For a moment, nothing changed. The machines kept their rhythm. The air stayed still. But then, the heart monitor made a tiny sound. A blip that wasn't there before. The mother blinked, not trusting her eyes. The nurse stepped closer, eyes wide. Another blip. The little sister didn't notice. She was crying now, singing through her tears, her voice shaking. "You said love never leaves, that it always finds the way back." Then it happened. The girl in the bed's eyelids flickered. Once. Twice. Slowly, painfully, they began to open. Her fingers twitched against the sheet. The mother gasped, standing up so fast her chair fell over. "Oh my God," she cried, clutching her daughter's hand. The little sister froze, her voice cracking in the middle of a note. The heart monitor beeped faster, stronger. The girl's lips moved, her voice faint, barely audible. "I hear you." The little sister dropped the guitar and climbed onto the bed, hugging her sister's arm tightly. "You came back," she sobbed, her tears falling onto her sister's gown. The older girl blinked slowly, her eyes focusing as if she were waking from the longest dream. "You were singing," she whispered. "It was so beautiful." The mother pressed the emergency button, and within seconds, doctors and nurses rushed in. "She's responsive," one shouted. "Pupils reacting." Another nurse adjusted the monitors, disbelief written all over her face. The mother couldn't stop crying. She kept kissing her daughter's forehead, her words tumbling over themselves. "Thank you, God, thank you, thank you." But even as the doctors examined her, the girl's eyes stayed on her little sister. "You didn't give up," she said weakly, her voice rough but full of warmth. The younger girl shook her head fiercely. "Never. I told God to let you hear me. I sang our song." The mother laughed through her tears. "She's been singing for you every day in her heart." The room filled with movement and noise, doctors giving orders, nurses recording vitals, but for the family, it was as if time had stopped. The miracle they had begged for was unfolding right in front of them. Hours later, when things had calmed down, the doctors explained that sometimes, patients in comas respond to familiar voices or sounds, but they all agreed that what happened was extraordinary. One of them, who had almost lost hope, said quietly to the mother, "I've worked in neurology for 20 years. I've never seen something like this." The mother smiled through her exhaustion. "That's because you haven't met my daughters." Days passed, and the girl grew stronger. Every morning, her sister would come and sit by her bed, humming their songs softly as if to keep the miracle alive. The hospital staff began to stop by just to listen. It had become a symbol of hope in the ward. People whispered that they'd seen something divine in that room, that maybe faith really could move the impossible. One afternoon, the sunlight filled the room again, warm and golden. The older girl sat up with pillows behind her, her color slowly returning. She looked at her little sister and smiled. "Sing it again," she said. "I want to remember every word." The little girl grinned shyly. "Only if you sing with me." Their voices blended together, fragile but beautiful, echoing down the hallway. Nurses paused in their duties, listening with smiles. Some even cried quietly. There was something unexplainable about that sound, two voices, one pulled back from the edge of darkness, the other fueled by pure, childlike faith. When they finished, the older girl looked at her sister, tears shining in her eyes. "You saved me." The little one shook her head. "God did. I just sang." Their mother, standing by the window, whispered a silent thank you toward the sky. For months, she had begged for one more day with her daughter, and now she had it. She promised herself she'd never take a single heartbeat for granted again. As days turned into weeks, the girl was finally strong enough to go home. The nurses lined up to say goodbye, some hugging her, others patting the little sister's head. "You're our miracle girl," one said softly. "And you," she told the little one, "you're the angel who sang her back." Outside, the air was cool, filled with the sounds of life, birds, wind, distant laughter. The older girl took her first steps in the sunlight, her sister's hand in hers. "It feels like waking up in a new world," she said quietly. The little girl smiled. "It is. I asked God for a new one for you." That night at home, after dinner, they sat together in the living room. The guitar rested beside them, the one missing a string. The older sister picked it up and strummed a soft chord. "It sounds out of tune," she laughed. "It's okay," her sister said. "It still works for miracles." The older girl smiled, her eyes filled with gratitude and love. "You know," she said, "when I was asleep, I dreamed about your voice. It was like light in the dark. Every time you sang, I felt a little closer to waking up. I think your song was my way home." The little girl's eyes filled with tears. "I thought maybe you couldn't hear me." "I heard every note," the older girl whispered. "Every single one." Their mother sat watching them, her heart full. She reached over and pulled both girls into a hug, her tears falling silently. "You two are my miracle," she said softly. "Never forget that love is stronger than anything." As the night grew quiet, the sisters sat side by side, singing once more. Softly, sweetly, their voices blending into something more powerful than either of them alone. Outside, the wind carried the sound through the trees, as if even the stars were listening. Somewhere deep in that quiet, you could almost believe that heaven itself was smiling. Because sometimes, miracles don't arrive with thunder or light, sometimes, they come softly, in the voice of a child who refuses to stop believing. And in that little hospital, in that one small room where everyone had once cried, life had begun again, one song, one prayer, one miracle at a time.